Like, as an African American, it makes me sad to see Africans shit on us all the time. But as an African American, I see my own community doing the same stuff. We cannot use the master's tools to break down his house, remember?
Oh, so fabulous.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel once again. It's your girl Dumebi. If this is your first time coming across my channel, you're welcome. I do hope you decide to subscribe. And if you are a returning subscriber, you guys know that I love you. It's so good to have you here. Welcome back. So today's video is strictly for educational purposes. Please do not go searching out the people that I talk about in this video. Don't send them any form of hate comments, threats, or violence. This channel does not support any of that. So there was this young lady, she's African, I think she said she's Nigerian to be specific. So she's living in America with her family and all of that, and then she's schooling in America as well. So she gave her own opinion on the whole cancellation of affirmative action in America. Her video actually went viral. So you know what, let's just go right ahead and play her video.
I don't think people understand or realize that so much of the black enrollees in colleges and universities are African. Not African American, African. Their parents immigrated to the States from Africa. Or they are international students who presently reside in Africa and come to the States for university. I'm one of those people. I'm the child of immigrants. I hold dual citizenship in America and Nigeria. Why is this important? Because aside from the fact that both African and African American students are black, there really aren't that many socioeconomic similarities between the two groups. Our average economic standing between the two groups are different. The average test scores and high school GPAs between the two groups are different. Black African students are more likely to have come from a two-parent household. Black African students are more likely to have parents who have obtained some form of higher education degree. I grew up in a town with a lot of Indian and Arab immigrants. My college application is more comparable to the Indian, South Asian, and Arab students that I lived near than the black students who lived a few towns over. Why do I say all this? Because at a college like mine, where there's only a couple hundred black people on campus at any given time, a situation that is true across many prestigious universities in America, it is disingenuous to act as if, quote unquote, underperforming black students are somehow robbing other students of opportunities of attending these prestigious universities. If out of the 200 black students at a top university, only 75 of them are descendants of slavery, that is not nearly enough people to even imply that their acceptances to these schools hindered the acceptances of other students. Someone needs to do a study on this if they haven't done it already, but go to any top 20 university, and out of the black students, if you ranked them 1 through whatever based on their incoming stats, the top 10-20% of them are going to be African for XYZ reason that I'm not getting into. Once you get into the zone of questioning whether the GPAs and SAT scores of these black students should have earned them a spot in this school, you don't have enough people left to make a genuine argument. Because assuming all students who are descendants of slavery got kicked out today and replaced with more deserving students, you've opened up maybe 50 spots at a school. That is the most frustrating part about this whole affirmative action shit.
When I watched that video, at first, it took me a while to understand what she was saying. I can't even say I understand everything she was trying to say, but I think I understand the bottom line of what she was saying. But she basically had to say so many things before she got to the point, right? And there were a lot of people in the comment section that misunderstood what she was saying and also took offense with what she was saying, because I mean, even I too, like when she said descendants of slavery, I was like, oof, okay, I know that's a term, ADOS, that, you know, a lot of our African American cousins used to refer to themselves as well. But I don't know, there's just something about descendants of slavery. I don't like that term, especially if it's coming from other parts of the diaspora. I feel like I don't like using that as a way to distinguish between us. I'd rather just say African Americans. But anyway, whatever. I don't think she meant that in a disrespectful way. I think it was other things she said in that video. So in the comment section, she was going back and forth with some people that disagreed with what she said, some people who also agreed with what she said. So she was trying to give more context to explain what she meant. So she made some other videos. I'm just going to go right ahead and play her other videos.
No, because this is precisely the point that I'm trying to make. I've made this point in multiple videos in the past, but at the end of the day, the model minority myth is not something that only happens when we're talking about Asian students. It happens when we're talking about African versus African American students as well. Because the fact of the matter is, acknowledging America's past and present with white supremacy is not profitable. They are not going to make a check by having an honest effort towards providing descendants of slavery with the necessary tools and resources to excel in academia. What they do instead is, one, have Black people be underrepresented in most prestigious universities in the first place, and then two, half of that tiny ass percentage be African students. And then what they do is they take those African students and parade them around like, look at these Black people. They're doing great in life. If you're a Black person not doing great in life, that's a personal failing and not an effect of white supremacy. These Black people are not like those other Black people. Look at Favor. Both her parents hold advanced degrees. Most of her relatives are doctors, lawyers, or engineers. Look at Obi. He came from an impoverished life in the village, but now he's a medical doctor. So Blackie, if you can't do that, you just need to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. That is what they do. So while yes, as an African student, I get to benefit from the work, the bitter work of civil rights era students who just wanted to get an education, such as not being slurred out on my campus every day. And if I am, we got an office where I can report these crackers. And while I do think that education should be accessible to anybody who seeks it, African, African American, white, Asian, Latino, Arab, whatever, my position in college should not have come at the expense of a descendant of slavery. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Black people benefited the least from affirmative action. The affirmative action was an affirmative actioning. Not for them. African students are often used to prop up the model minority myth. That's the point. First and foremost, African students are overrepresented in academia. We only make up 13% of the Black population. In general, we're overrepresented. And then in the Ivy League, we're way overrepresented. And the disparities in educational stats here. In short, even though Black immigrants generally outperform Black natives. I tried to get the specific numbers from these two studies, but they were behind a paywall, so they're there. That's where this extensive study is quoting from. I recommend reading this study, it's very interesting. Second, white and Black Africans' children are therefore less likely to live in single-parent families, as I said, more likely to have household heads who graduated from college, as I said, and more likely to live in wealthier families than the children of their native counterparts, as I said. Which is why I was able to deduce this last point from the first 2 points. If you're more likely to live in a two-parent household and more likely to have a parent who's graduated college, you're more likely to be higher income than someone who doesn't have either of those two things. In fact, the typical earnings for people who hold a bachelor degree are 84% higher than those who don't. Another contributing factor to this is that with the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, which led to an increase in African and West Indian immigration, it limited visas to exceptional professionals, i.e. the people who already held some form of a professional degree before coming to the States. Another interesting that was highlighted in this study is that it says immigrant Black people lack a connection to predominantly US-born Black communities, which someone who was not raised in close proximity to other Black people, who lived in a majority white suburb where the other minorities weren't even Black, yeah. And then it says they trust white institutions more than non-immigrant Blacks, i.e. native Black people don't trust the white institutions as much as immigrant Black people did. Because of this lack of connection and more trust in white institutions, immigrant Blacks are more likely to live in diverse communities. Hence why I felt that my application was comparable to the Indian and Arab students I lived around. Not because I want to be Indian or Arab, not because I don't identify with Black people, but because I lived near them. I went to school with them. Our stats were similar. I got into the same schools as they did, except U of M, but we don't talk about that. Even though none of this was the point of my video, I just need to let it be known for the nth time that me bringing up these stats are not to disparage Native Black Americans in any way. It is simply to point out the differences between Native Black Americans and the immigrant Black Americans. Because, as I said before, people who hold a bachelor's degree are 84% richer than those who don't. If you are more likely to come from a family where your parents have at least a bachelor's degree, colleges want you more because you're going to bring a bigger check. It's all money.
So now that you've seen those other videos, I think you can better understand, her thought process. I understand the point she's trying to make, but some of the things she said rubbed me off the wrong way. But before I talk about what I think, let me go right ahead and play people's responses and stitches to her original video.
Black African students are more likely to have come from a two-parent household.
I don't appreciate this video. Like, I don't like that she's saying this because number of reasons. One, it kind of pits Africans against African Americans, and there's a whole lot of convoluted bullshit with that. So either you was an African that got sent to a country to be a slave, or you were not. It's a whole lot of complication with that shit. But her basic point is, in a prestigious white institution, in a Harvard, in a Yale, in a Duke, let's say there are 200 black kids in the admitting class. Let's say there are 200. It ain't, but let's say it's 200, okay? What she's basically saying is, all the motherfucking white kids is like, oh, one of them 200 black kids took my spot. She's like, yeah, that's wrong. Because all of the black kids that are there are not affirmative action kids. A large number, so let's say 175 of the 200 black kids that are there are not affirmative action kids. They are kids who came from African families that have two-parent households, that have the kinds of income to go to prestigious institutions, that have the kinds of grades to go to prestigious institutions, that lived in the kinds of neighborhoods that prestigious institutions are going to pull from. They went to high schools that those schools pull from. So they're not the affirmative action blacks. Please, okay? It's only the 25 that's really the affirmative action blacks. So ultimately, what's about to happen with this legislation is you're not even going to get the 25 that really need the opportunity. You're not even going to get them. But you still going to get the ones that can afford to go. And guess what? The ones who mad because, they didn't get in because some black kid took their spot, they still not going to fucking get in. Because now you ain't got no leg up anyway. That's the point. Now, this message, the way it's constructed is not how I would have constructed it, because I can imagine a lot of people may be watching and are missing. But she's not wrong. She's not wrong, but it's unfortunate.
People understand.
This video is blowing up, and I fully expect another diaspora war because of it. But what she is saying is true, and I feel like we need to start having this conversation. And she's not a separatist because she's just talking about how even though we as a race are all black, we are all different ethnicities. We all have different cultural norms and nuances and experiences. We even find that African and Caribbean immigrants just look at race relations in the U.S. completely differently than ADOS people. Nor do I think she's wrong for willingly admitting that African and Caribbean immigrants have benefited from affirmative action in some cases a lot more than ADOS people, because in those cultures they value merit and academia above all else. Again, I think that is because of that immigration factor that ADOS people just don't have. They came specifically to America to excel. One of the main ways to do that is through academia. That's why they stress to their children to do extremely well in terms of academics, so they can get into good colleges, and so they can get good jobs, and so they can get their bag and go back to their hometown, their home country. There's nothing wrong with that.
That so much.
Fivel. I have words for you. But if I said them, I would really. See, kids, this is why we don't listen to our parents when it comes to model minority culture, because it breeds monsters like this. And by monsters, I'm not referring to the person, I'm referring to the personality type. Because you went real far from the point. Girl, what? As a Sierra Leonean, I'm literally horrified. There's so much to dissect. There's so much wrong. Girl, I wish you peace. Cause what the I really hope that chasing a certain person's approval, the same way your mom and dad did to make it in this country, is really, really working for you. Because throwing other under the bus is not cool. Using statistics to take shots in a diaspora war that has already been very, very fragile for many, many years that we are trying to amend, you're weird for that. And in the comments were just people just cheering you on. Y'all are the sickness that prevent us from being able to achieve Pan-Africanism.
Not African American.
Little girl, how dare you? You came from the motherland to the country that we built for you to criticize us. We are the same. How dare you even try to attempt to draw a difference between us? See, if you're going to criticize black people, one, I need you to get your facts right because you're wrong. And two, I need you to actually learn the history of black Americans. Because you may be from Africa, but to a lot of these white people that you will be working for and cohabitating with, all they see you is as just another black person, not an African. Have a good day.
That so much.
I sat with this video for a couple of days, but the feeling that I had is very much correct. This video is a swing and a miss. It don't matter whether or not you were born in Cameroon, Nigeria, Morocco, South Africa, Kenya, Sudan, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Jamaica. It don't matter where you were born. To everybody else, you are still black. So to go out of your way to separate African students from black American students, it's pointless. That's number one. Number two, to further disparage and try to, downplay African American students, spitting out stereotypes, right? That don't help either. And you sound just like them. I don't come from a two-parent household. Sure, I don't. But both of my parents hold higher education degrees. One is an Air Force veteran. The other taught for 40 years. I come from a family of educators. They all got higher education degrees. Two of my best friends are first-generation Nigerian American. Both have higher education degrees. One has a Juris Doctorate. However, one of my other best friends, who is African American, has 2 higher education degrees and is teaching. Her father was a superintendent of schools. Her mother was a principal. Like, I don't think you understand that you are parroting the talking points of people who look at us the exact same way. Don't matter where you were born. It don't matter. So, your subsequent videos, well, I said it was disingenuous to say, but it don't matter. Don't matter. The message was already messed up.
Than the black suit.
Once again, Pan-Africanism will never happen. Check out her original. She's just talking about, as an African immigrant, how much different she is from black Americans. So much so that she identifies with Asians and Arabs, which are considered Asian or white, than she does the black folks. And it's like, this Pan-African tattoo I got when Trump got elected, should I just get it lasered off? Should I just let it go? It's just a fantasy. I have to get my ego, though, because I got to get it where I can. You, as an African, have opportunities to go to school and get jobs in America because of black folks. But again, if you want to come here and separate yourself, it is what it is.
Are African, not African American.
As I was watching the video, one thing that came to mind is just how far affirmative action has been chipped away at. And we know that recently the Supreme Court basically eliminated affirmative action. But before it got to that point, they had been chipping at affirmative action for years. Originally, affirmative action was about addressing past injustice and its continuing impact on current conditions for African American students. It was about addressing the problem of institutionalized racism and addressing the inequities and inequality in education when it comes to African Americans. But in order to appeal to all of these people, in order to maintain the constitutionality of affirmative action, it no longer was about addressing those inequities. It was no longer about addressing past injustice and its continuing impact on African Americans. Instead, it became about promoting diversity. And because of that, all of these other groups have hopped on the bandwagon of affirmative action and benefited from it, whereas African Americans have received benefits from affirmative action, but our issues and our concerns have basically been pushed to the back burner, and you have everybody and their mama benefiting from affirmative action. Whereas the intended beneficiaries have been pushed to the back of the bus. You have, for instance, African immigrants far outnumbering African Americans at prestigious universities and colleges. At prestigious universities like Harvard, you know, most of the admittees that are black are not even African American, and they're being admitted under an affirmative action program that was initially intended to benefit African Americans. And these same people that reap the benefits from the African American struggle are the same people that have no respect for African Americans, are the same people that stereotype African Americans and assume that they are better than African Americans. And in fact, as that woman said, she identifies more with these other groups of people than with African Americans. She talked about how she has more in common with these Arab students and Asian students than she has with a black American student. So it disgusts me when I see these black immigrants benefit from the struggle of the African American while they are highly disrespectful of the African American.
So much.
I just want to say that this video gave me the ick, okay? Because you're in America, so if you're black in America, you're black, and everyone who is not black is going to see you the same way. Oh, but my test scores. Oh, but the schools we go to, you're still black. Oh, but African Americans don't have both parents in a household. That's a stereotype, and it's kind of sad that you think that, because guess what? When you're going out and you're walking around in stores and stuff, people are looking at you the same way. Oh, she might have only been raised by her mom because her daddy didn't want her. Just to take things a little bit further, let me show you what they see. Okay? Oh, I receive better test scores. We go to these prestigious schools. You know, we are, you know, more in line. You know, there is a difference. Now, here's the African American. Okay?
African. Not African American.
Grandpa here. Good morning. So, college educated here. African American. Okay, and I got the point of your video. Your point of your video was to debunk the reasoning that was used in order to bring down affirmative action. But see, this is where you get problematic, okay? And this is the same rhetoric that a lot of Africans who have migrated over here, this is what they push. You're trying to compare yourself, trying to say, oh, well, we're, you know, as an African, we outperform African American students. Child, y'all been saying that since the day is long. And the thing of it is that something for y'all to be so smart, y'all have failed to realize, even though y'all have all these accolades, you're going to be reduced to a black person. Okay? Master's degree here, post-grad certificates. You heard what I said, certificates. Lean Six Sigma. Strategic marketing from Cornell. And this imagery that y'all have of African Americans is ridiculous, especially when we as a community have taken the brunt of the shit that has been thrown at us from this country and the oppressors of this country. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. But let me also tell you this though. Let's talk about the conditional blackness that a lot of y'all engage in. Because when y'all come to these schools and stuff like that, a lot of y'all enroll in what? Black fraternities and sororities. Y'all get them Greek letters. Y'all don't go over there to the white ones. Y'all come over here to the black ones. Some of y'all engage in the culture that we have created over here. But in the same term, we'll sit there and talk about us like as if we are beneath you. Okay? So let's not do this. Let's not do this. Some of y'all come over here and y'all project the same stereotypes that the white folk have told y'all about us. When you ain't doing nothing but pandering to the patriarchy, honey, they're never ever going to pick you. Regardless if you get the chance to lay up next to one every day, they still not gonna pick you. They gonna pick that whiteness over everything.
So you guys have heard everything. This woman in particular was the person that helped me understand better what the young girl was saying. From what I understand, the young girl in question, whose video we played at first, is trying to talk about the fact that them taking away affirmative action, is not really going to reduce the number of black students that attend these universities, because a lot of these black students in the universities are African students who already have some certain kind of qualifications that allow them to get into these universities because of some kind of privilege that are exposed to, having two-parent homes and their parents, having higher education and being of a certain kind of economic status and stuff like that. She's trying to say that the students that are in these universities are not even there in the first place because of these programs that are supposed to be as a result of affirmative action, right? And then another point she was trying to make is the fact that a lot of the opportunities that were created for African Americans are being taken advantage of by African students. A lot of the people in the comment section were actually agreeing with her. A lot of African students were saying the same thing. A lot of Caribbean students as well were saying the same thing, because at the end of the day, we are all black. But these opportunities were specifically created to help the African Americans, but somehow under the bracket of all of us being black, other black people who are not African Americans are benefiting off of these different programs, right? Another takeaway that I have from what she said is the fact that Africans are actually part of the model minority. I never thought about this. Whenever I hear model minority, I always think Asians. But I'm realizing that Africans are actually part of the model minority, because Africans are a group of black people that the white supremacist people use as an example to, shame African Americans and be like, if it was about skin color, how come those other black people, the ones from Africa, are making it? How come they are getting educated? How come they are achieving this and that? You see that it's not about color. These black people are doing well. It's not about color. It's because of you guys. You guys are lazy and this and that. So Africans have become a model minority, and a lot of Africans are actually playing into this model minority myth, which is harmful. It is harmful to our African American cousins. And I think that is where I have a problem with what this young lady was saying in the video. She was trying to make a point talking about how removing affirmative action is not really going to make much difference, because at the end of the day, it wasn't really doing much in the first place. But when she now started going deep and talking about the differences between the African Americans and the Africans, that was where I had the problem. And in her other video, she was talking about how the diaspora was as stupid, not knowing that the things she was saying are the reason why there are even diaspora was in the first place. We know that we are all African descendants, everybody of the African diaspora. We know that we have different cultures. We are like different ethnic groups, but within the same race, within the same family. But when you try to be like, oh, we have a leg up on them because we mostly come from two-parent homes, because we mostly have better results, we can afford to go to better schools, our parents are usually more educated, that is where I have a problem. And not to bring my people down or anything, but a lot of people, a lot of Africans that migrate to America and other Western countries are not the average Africans. It is usually the higher middle class and above. The people that are from the lower middle class downwards cannot afford to go to these countries and live the kind of lifestyle that this young lady and her family are privileged to be a part of. So you cannot say, oh, the Africans usually do better in school. They're usually coming from two-parent homes. It is not every African that comes from two-parent homes. It is not every African that has parents that are well educated, like she said in that video. So you comparing the Africans that are there because they have a certain kind of class, they meet a certain kind of, socioeconomic class, and comparing it to the African Americans over there as if every African is doing better than every African American. I don't know if I'm making sense, but that is the thing. Over here, there are people that don't even have a degree. Over here, there are people that are struggling to feed. There are people that do not come from two-parent homes. There are people that do not have that higher education and cannot even afford to get it. So don't make generalizations like, oh, the Africans come from two-parent homes. Like, I don't know. To me, it sounded condescending, and I feel like she's young, she's still going to learn, but there are still some biases that she needs to unpack. A lot of Africans, I'm not going to lie, a lot of us, because we are ignorant about our history, we don't even know anything about slavery and the whole African diaspora, except when we begin to learn, make conscious efforts to learn on our own. Because of that ignorance, we have bought into a lot of stereotypes. She was saying a lot of things, generalizing the African Americans to make it look like a lot of them don't come from two-parent homes. A lot of them cannot afford to go to these Ivy League schools, cannot afford this level of education and this and that. And that is the generalization that is harmful. I didn't like that. I didn't like that distinction, because in as much as she was making a valid point, a lot of the things that she said, the pathways, the words that she used, the ideologies that she expressed were things that I feel she shouldn't have said. I can understand how they can be offensive. I understand how they can be divisive. I understand how they can further fuel that fire of diaspora wars. And that is not what we want. I don't know if I'm just being sensitive, but I felt like she shouldn't have said that. And when I heard that video and she said she was Nigerian, I was like, oh my God. Whew, one name, that's my sister. But then everybody is at different points of that journey of unpacking those white supremacist ideals and the stereotypes that we have been fed. And I feel like everybody is at different stages of the Pan-African journey, or understanding that, you know, we shouldn't be seeing ourselves in a certain way through the white man's eyes. So anyways, you guys, let me know what you think about this video in the comment section. I want to know what you guys think. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't. You can also leave me some super thanks. The button is down there. If you want to support my channel, if you like what I'm doing, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.